The Milwaukee Bucks have just failed as an NBA franchise. I mean, look what a rookie from the Grizzlies had to say about this horrible team.
Tell me what happened at the end, how you all were able to hold on.
Great credit to Doc Rivers and the Milwaukee Bucks.
This 23-year-old, wait, let me zoom in. This 23-year-old boy just thanked Doc Rivers for selling a game. Doc Rivers isn't even a player. We've got to start with mentioning that this story doesn't start here. It started about 8 years ago when the Milwaukee Bucks drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo, a young boy out of Greece, with a 15th overall pick. Now, Giannis wasn't really seen as a good player. He was seen as someone who could maybe be a 3-and-D guy. He was athletic, and he was like, well, I'll use a current NBA example. Most people thought of him like Jonathan Kuminga. Of course, he didn't end up playing like Jonathan Kuminga, and he ended up becoming a star. The Bucks won an NBA championship in 2021 over the Phoenix Suns, and they've been looking really, really good ever since, I would say, 2019. However, last year, they got swept in the first round against the 8th seed. That's right, the Miami Heat last year, who ended up making it to the NBA Finals, beat the Milwaukee Bucks 4-0. The Bucks didn't win a single game with Giannis, the runner-up to MVP. This was absolutely shocking, and it made the Bucks need to have some immediate moves. The first thing that they did was fire Mike Budenholzer. Now, a lot of people did disagree with this decision because he was, of course, the coach that coached them through the 2020-21 NBA championship. And he was pretty damn good, I would say. But they fired him because they just thought that he underperformed. The next thing they did that offseason was trade for Damian Lillard. They traded for him from the Portland Trail Blazers, and they gave back a lot to them. I don't remember the exact details, but I do believe that the package ended up being, it was huge. It was like Jeremy Grant and like 3 first-round picks. So obviously, Dame now goes into Milwaukee with really, really high expectations. He is expected to be a star. And guess what he does? He becomes a star. The Bucks started off this season 32-11. They were playing phenomenally, and their synergy just seemed totally on. Their coach, Adrian Griffin, was only in his first year, but it doesn't mean that he wasn't good. He helped this team channel the life that they had, and honestly, they've just been playing very, very well this season. And then Adrian Griffin got fired. At a 30-13 record with a point differential per game of plus 4.1, the Milwaukee Bucks decided to fire Adrian Griffin a few weeks ago. Then an interim head coach filled in while they were looking for people to sign, Joe Prunty. He had a 2-1 record with the team, and 2 of the 3 games that he played with them were a split against a Cavs squad in the midst of a historically hot stretch, with a third game a win over the very, very good New Orleans Pelicans. He also had a plus 7.3 point differential. Then they finally found their head coach, Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers with the Milwaukee Bucks is currently 3-7 with a negative 2 point differential. They just lost in Memphis to a Grizzlies squad that was missing their 5 best players and had been 6-20 at home before this. This team is embarrassing. They've lost multiple games off of missed buzzer beaters, and honestly, those games shouldn't have been buzzer beaters anyways. Somehow, they were able to blow out the Nuggets, but that's only because Jamal Murray was injured. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what happened to the Milwaukee Bucks and how they can fix all this. Let's get right into it. Firstly, let's talk about Damian Lillard's downfall. He used to be a very efficient player, having great shooting splits. Well, not great, but as good as you can for a guy who puts up such a high volume. But this season, he's only averaging 42% from the field and 34% from 3. His last game, he shot 3 of 13 from 3. Before that, 2 of 7. And it's honestly been some ugly, ugly performances. They just have not been good in the slightest, and he's been kind of selling. However, we've got to remember that he is 33 years old. Not everyone has LeBron longevity, and he might be nearing the end of his career. He also got traded to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's just a miserable place to live in. Additionally, he also got divorced by his wife as soon as he got traded, which sucks a lot. I mean, there's not much that he can do about that, but it's obviously been affecting his on-court play, and you can't blame the guy for that. However, it does explain why he's fallen off a bit of a cliff recently. But now on to Giannis, because Giannis might just be playing the best basketball of his entire life right now. He's currently averaging the highest points per game of his entire career, 30.7 points per game, while also being the most efficient he's ever been, which is 62.3% effective field goal, as well as a career-high 6.3 assists per game and 11 rebounds per game. He's obviously at his scoring peak right now, and his box plus minus is 11.2. He's in an unstoppable run, and he is a two-way beast. So why doesn't he work with Damian Lillard? Well, I think that Dame is used to having the ball on his hands a lot. When he joined this team, it isn't a team that runs ISOs all the time. It's a team that allows everyone to grab a share of the ball and gives the ball to Giannis a lot to be able to run his own stuff. Because obviously, Giannis is a great player. So it's just not meshing well together. The chemistry between the two might be good, and the talent might prevail some games, but they're not good enough to win in an 82-game season or even 7 games in a row against a solid team in the Eastern Conference. And now to wrap up this final few minutes of the video, we're going to talk about the role players around Giannis and Dame, because obviously they are a huge part of this team. I mean, you can't have a NBA team with just 2 players. And there's basically just Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton. Brook Lopez has been horrible alongside Dame, and Chris Middleton is just showing his age. It's pretty clear that Jrue Holiday is being missed clearly, because while he could have historically poor offensive stretches, he was always one of the league's best defenders. The Bucks' defensive rating per game has fallen to being a bottom 10 in the league, and honestly, it doesn't look like it's going to change much. The trade deadline was also extremely uneventful for this Bucks team. They literally made like a move to trade away 2 first-round picks for like 2 other future firsts, just some weird logistic NBA stuff to do with money and finance and contracts. But honestly, I don't love analyzing analytics, which is why I watched a Bucks game of my own. And here's what I thought. I rewatched the entire game that they had against the Miami Heat, and the Heat were just the better team in every single quarter, without Jimmy Butler. On the first one, they just absolutely dominated the boards, and then they just ended up shooting more efficiently the entire night. They made a ton of their threes. From what I saw, I didn't see much misses, and of course, assists were all the topic of conversation. I'm pretty sure they out-assisted the Bucks by like 20 based on how much I was watching, and they just fouled way less. It was a beautiful game from the Heat and a horrible game from the Bucks, which basically summarizes this entire season for them. Anyways, like the video if you are a Bucks fan and you want your team to be better, and comment what you think about the current situation. See ya.